Good morning, everyone. Is everyone having a great day today? How was the Me Too panel? Awesome, so good. So welcome, it's wonderful to have you here. I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker today, Michael Bush. Michael leads the global enterprise of more than 50 offices around the world for Great Places to Work. Under his leadership, Great Place to Work has evolved its mission and methodology to recognize companies that build great workplaces for all employees, regardless of who they are or what they do for their company. And being a part of Great Place to Work ourselves at Global Force, I can tell you it's a wonderful organization, and it's a great partnership to be working with them and to have them here today. Michael is also the co-author of A Great Place to Work for All, and I may or may not have tried to steal his Uber last night. I'm just saying. Please join me in welcoming Michael to the stage.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Yes, there was an attempt at an Uber theft last night, but I wasn't going to bring it up. So thanks for coming and spending some time with us today. I'm going to be talking about people, because that's the business that we're in, but also through this lens of one of the big changes that's coming, which is artificial intelligence and how it's affecting people. But a little bit about Great Place to Work, just so we're on the same page. This is our company. We see things how we want them to be, not exactly how they are today. So we have an aspiration for more in terms of the experience that people have, no matter who they are, or what they do for the organization. So this is our mission. You know, we all need a sense of purpose, some reason for being other than just being a business, but actually something that drives us, that we think about all the time, that we feel very proud to be a part of. And this is ours, to help organizations become a great place to work for all. And when we say all, we mean absolutely all. We have a short-term focus. Today's panel kind of highlights that. Which is, for the companies that we work with, we look at the statistics and see whether or not different demographic groups are having a different experience at this thing called work. So we know there's a difference in experience between men and women, and we actually see absolutely no reason why it shouldn't be the same. Not approximately the same, not plus or minus 5%, but absolutely the same. And we have data that says it's possible, it's doable, and we're working with our customers to try and achieve this goal by 2020. When we say all, we mean everybody. Sometimes CEOs will say everybody, we say everybody. It doesn't matter if you're on the 20th floor or if you're 8 feet underground digging a trench, in the middle of the snow for AT&T. We mean all. Absolutely everybody. No one's more important than another. There's no targeted strategic group. It's everybody, every individual. Doesn't matter if you have no hair, it should be a great place to work. Doesn't matter if you have gray hair, it should be a great place to work. Doesn't matter if you have uniquely beautiful hair, it should be a great place to work. And it doesn't matter if, based on what you believe, you cover your hair, it should be a great place to work. And it doesn't matter if you're Woody, it should be a great place to work. So here's Woody. Woody's really happy because he's out of the closet. I mean the actual closet, if you know something about the movie. And so he's out of the closet, been hanging out with his friends, and he's going to work. He's going to have a job interview. Super excited about it. He's going to do new things other than just play with his other toy friends. He gets to the interview, and this is the team that's interviewing him. And one of them is letting him know that I'm going to be your leader if you come to work here. So this is Woody looking at this team, good-looking group, diverse group, and they're talking to him about the things that we know make a great place to work. One of them is respect. Are you respected by the person that you work for? We measure that. Another one is credibility. Does your leader talk to you in a way that over time is consistently, you have a feeling that they're transparent and telling you the truth? They aren't treating you any different from anybody else. They're transparent in terms of their communication. Fairness, probably the most important point. We measure this. People want to know that the people that they work for are treating them just like everybody else. And they tell Woody, it's going to happen for you. People want pride. They want to have a sense of pride, which is, I'm going to do the best I can do at this job because you're going to depend on this work. So it's care that drives the pride. It's not a hat and a t-shirt. It's, I'm going to work super hard because of the people that I work with, because I care about them. We measure that. People want to enjoy the people that they work with. We measure that. and people want to trust the people that they work with and that they work for. Probably the most important piece. And we measure that. So after Woody hears that from that wonderful group of people, why is it that he looks like this? Well, it's because Woody didn't see anyone who's 40 centimeters tall. Have any of you ever had that experience? You're just wondering, am I going to be the first? While it's great to be first, it's a lot of pressure to be the first as well. So this is part of the reality. And so what we talk about is this reality. We know there are a lot of people entering the workforce, and they are the first. What can we do to make the culture such that they feel welcomed and that they feel a part of it and that they feel like they belong? There's a great leader who I respect, Julie Sweet, who has really brought to the world, through her firm, 3 important pieces of research. The first one being that the gender gap should be closed, can be closed, and they have an analytical report. You can go to their website and download it, expressing exactly how it can be done. I think it's a very great contribution that they've made to the world. The other one that they've done is a series of reports on artificial intelligence. If you're a little unclear on what it is, just go to their website. They download what it is, what it means, what the trends are, what CEOs are saying about it, investments that are being made in this area, and their projections for what they think it's going to do in terms of affecting the world and affecting work. A great place to work, we focus on its effect on people. That's the lens that we focus on. They also have an interesting study where they had a team of physicians that were given data on patients. They came together to see what, as a group, as a team, they would diagnose for the patient. They worked together for 12 hours in a group and came up with the diagnosis for the patients in this cohort, and they were 94% accurate when working as a group and coming up with the diagnosis, because the computer already had the true answer. They then gave a computer the same task, and in 7 seconds, the computer was 92%. Then they did another study where they had the physicians with the data from the computers, and it was 98%. So in fact, people plus the computers, the best result of all. So that's a way of viewing artificial intelligence rather than a scary, horrifying way around replacement. I think it's important to start with, here we are at WorkHuman and thinking about people, and this is Alex Turing, who is known as the father of artificial intelligence. So without him, we don't have a lot of things like GPS, and you went to the wrong restaurant last night. A lot of things happen. So this is Alex Turing, real person, played by Benedict Cumberbatch in the movie Imitation Game. And he was pulled into a team for being one of the greatest mathematicians in the world to try and break encryption that was being used by the Germans to send instructions to the troops. This team had the same mission, which was to win the war and to use mathematics to do so. This is just an image, just to get your mindset right, from the movie of this first computer. He was socially awkward, really, really awkward. But that was okay, because he was so smart. And he worked together with a team, but he did have to find that he had to be a little more human in his work. And it was a woman who helped him become more human, which is, if you don't at least smile at a person, you're going to have a tough time solving this problem. So she brought some humanity to him, and he actually changed. As a result of his work, it's estimated that 21 million lives were saved because the war was ended sooner. So this was a tremendous accomplishment, not just by him, but certainly through his mathematical leadership. Now, who would have thought 4 years later he'd be dead? And he'd be dead by drinking a hormonal concoction that was given to him because he was gay. In London, it was illegal to be gay. And it was found that he was gay, so he had to drink this potion that basically affected his libido. And these chemicals over time wrecked his body, and he was dead 4 years later. So here's the father of artificial intelligence. treated in a really inhumane way. Why does that happen? Fear. That's why it happens. People had a fear of him and what he was going to do, or people like him was going to do. So fear is a very powerful force. That's what #MeToo was about earlier today. It's about fear at work. Now, for Alex Turing, he had a real fear about being gay. For women who go to work and know that there are crazy things going on, that's a real fear. It's not imagined, it's real. Lean.org just did a survey where 47% of the men and women surveyed said they believe it's a problem, it's a huge problem, and 25% of them said it's just the tip of the iceberg, what's happened so far. So this is one of those cases where men and women agree, almost. But also in the Lean.org survey, this finding surfaced. That 1,950 men surveyed said they were less likely to mentor women as a result of #MeToo. Now, to me, this is a different kind of fear. This fear isn't real. This is just fear. There's no evidence to say if I mentor a woman, something bad's going to happen to me. Absolutely no evidence. The other thing is, 85% of them were asked, have you ever mentored a woman? And they said no. So if you think about the math, 3 times 0 is 0, so nothing's going to change. Okay? But it's kind of fascinating because this, if you present this the wrong way, it makes you say, oh, we have to be careful with #MeToo. You know, but history has shown we don't need to be careful with the truth. We need to let the truth be what it is and let people deal with it. And I think this woman has the appropriate response to the men who are less likely now to mentor women. Fear at work. Here's the bad part. It separates people. That's what it does. You know, you have HR leaders over here who have been in HR for 20 years, and another table of the new HR analytics people who have just been hired, sitting separately because they fear the same things. One group fears that they don't know what they're talking about, they don't get the future. Another group feels like, why do we keep hiring them? They don't know anything. They didn't get a degree in organizational behavior like I did. You get what I'm saying? This happens in organizations, whether it's accountants, people of different ethnicities, people of different age groups. That's what fear does. It's not a theory, and it stops innovation. That's the bad part. It stops this thing that we talk about, which is inclusion. That's the bad part. There's a real cost to fear, whether it's trumped up or whether it's real. And our research has shown fear at work is really not a good thing. People need to be in a place, like you heard earlier today, that's not only physically safe, emotionally safe, and psychologically safe. And companies that have the environments where there is safety outperform those that don't. That data is in. It's becoming more relevant now. A great team is where you pull people together and they fear the same things, not fearing different things. So this fear of artificial intelligence, I think it's a real fear. You know, nobody fears Wall-E. You know, nobody fears this robot, it's just a movie. Who would have thought these robots, things that look like this, would eliminate 17 million jobs around the world and counting? So if you're a worker doing this kind of work, this fear is real. And how we talk about it, words matter, especially from leaders. When a leader stands in front of a room and says, we are going to use these machines, we are going to use machines learnings, we are going to increase our investment in artificial intelligence, it's going to lower our costs, it's going to increase our profits, how do you think people feel? This is how they feel. They didn't hear anything about them. And this message is important. So we can be talking about something that's super great. How we talk about it matters. We have found that great companies, when they talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, or robotics, actually talk about growth. So it's not, how do I keep my little bit of the pie? It's how do I make the pie bigger? And we, together, are going to make the pie bigger. This gets people going. This makes people feel a part of it. This makes people feel that you care about them as a person. And they're not just an employee. Our research has led us to two important findings. One is It's all about leadership. We call it for all leadership. And for all leadership leads to innovation by all, which is the only way to compete going forward. The idea of a few leaders innovating, a committee coming together to develop new innovative ideas is a drag on the business. Because when organizations come together, this is why startups are so effective at disruption. You get 100 people focused on one thing, innovation. Not 7 people focused on innovation. Not you just do your job while we innovate. Everybody's focused on the exact same thing. It's innovation by all. Innovation is not one person being a genius. It's a lot of people thinking, experiencing life, taking in data, and many people having a light bulb experience. And what we know, our data says it's better for business, it's better for people, and it's better for the world. And we think this is the only way forward in terms of your organization keeping a competitive advantage. You may wonder why I have this slide. I just like it. It makes me feel good. So back to the numbers. So executive effectiveness, this is something that we take a look at. This is something that we measure. We take all the companies who do our survey and we rank them in terms of executive effectiveness. And what we have found is what you would think. The teams with the most effective executive teams, the teams with the most for all leaders, their revenue is almost 5 times that of great organizations that don't have that same concentration of great leaders. So when we share statistics like this, which is the business that we're in, these are all great companies. This isn't miserable companies compared to great companies. These are all great companies. And this is what we have found. So the dollars are in. Innovation, we also rank and score companies based on innovation. We do think about innovation by all. That's what we score. Are the conditions present? Is the culture present that supports innovation? People feel that their ideas matter. Once again, whopping revenue returns for the organizations that do this well, that have this thing called innovation for all. So we went further. We did a study. We surveyed 10,000 leaders, 75,000 employees, to find out more, to make a contribution about the experiences that people were having at this thing called work. And here's what we found. People were having a couple of types of experiences that we call a drag experience. These are people that have a job. They have a job, and they do their job. And in terms of the interactions that they have with their leader, they're inconsistent. Some of them, really love the leader. Most of them, it's a little inconsistent. They're neutral or don't have a real strong connection, so therefore they have a job. And in this category, you find most working people. And we survey 3 million people a year and 10,000 companies a year. So I just want you to know I'm standing on data, not just my opinion. So this is something we've been doing a long time, do it every year. And this is what we found when we combed through that data. There's another group of people who have what we call a neutral experience, which is a leader that is really focused on getting the job done, hitting goals, hitting budgets, and is very good at that. But in terms of treating people as people, knowing that people are different, knowing that if you nurture those differences and understand them, you can maximize their human potential, that's not what these leaders do. They get the job done. They're super important, vitally important. And then we found there's 2 other types of leaders. And we know a lot of them that accelerate innovation and accelerate performance. And these couple of leaders, which we know quite a few of them, get the business results that kind of leadership yields, which you saw in the earlier graphs. So these are some of the names that we have for the leaders that tend to lead the kinds of experiences that I just described. And I think you can look at this from your experience and see if you know people. I'm not going to ask you to call out people's names who fall in the different groups. Do these labels make sense to you? Okay, so we have found 5 statistical clusters that occurred when we went through the data that led us to these differences. And I snapped that real fast so that you have to buy the book. I think the deck's available for you as well. So this is just to give you a little bit more insight into these types of leaders, because it's important. And these are the kinds of things. The quotes in blue come from our comments, meaning they come from employees. We didn't make them up. This is that leader that gets the job done. Very important leader. But this leader can do better. We believe all these leaders can do better. And this is that leader. We see him all the time in every company we work with, where people say, I'm here because of this leader. And what's amazing to us is when people say that repeatedly, and we go to the top of the organization and we go, you have a phenomenal leader here. And they go, who? We say Tom. They go, who? Tom. You got to know Tom. Who? He's not on our high potential list. We go, he ought to be. But they don't know. But the people know. The people absolutely know. They'll do anything for this Tom. And we find them everywhere. And then this is the highest level of leader, the for-all leader. This person doesn't care if you're a millennial, doesn't care if you're 55 and over, doesn't care what your gender is, couldn't care less about your ethnicity. This is a leader who believes the way they treat you and the way they support you is going to get all your potential. It's going to maximize your potential. They meet you where you are and get the results that prove that it's worthwhile doing that. These are remarkable people, and there are plenty of them. Within an organization, some organizations, they might be hard to find. These are some behaviors to help you understand a little bit more what we mean when we talk about this type of leader, this for-all leader. We feel this is what organizations need more of. Facing the speed of innovation, facing automation, facing global competition. These leaders think about the whole organization. They don't just think about their division or their department or their state or their region or their country. They're always taking care of those responsibilities, but looking how to help the organization grow. And they believe the way you do it is through people. They also believe when you survey them, all the people are their people. They should develop everybody they bump into, not just the people who work for them. They have this view. Most people ask a question, can you move from one leadership group to the next? Yes is the answer. It's hard to move from a kind of a leader 1 to a leader 2. And I'll explain why. And it's not easy to move from a 4 to a 5, but it can be done. The other movements absolutely can be done. Absolutely can be done. So, here's just a graph that shows, the distribution of leaders. The companies that are on our 100 Best Companies list that we publish in Fortune magazine, 40% of the leaders are level 5 leaders in those companies. 32% are level 4 leaders, and so on. And then if you look at the data for the companies that we survey that do not make the list, you see what's in gray. So it's pretty clear leadership makes the difference. This doesn't work for everybody. Some people hear what we're talking about and just continue to do what they're doing, and that's their right, to be able to do that. They look at numbers and don't necessarily believe what we believe, and I think everybody here believes, or you wouldn't be at this conference. You've self-selected to believe in humans and what humans can do. And we know that behind numbers there are hidden figures. And I use this example because just to crystallize in your mind what a for-all leader is, or what a for-all leader can be. So a computer, until about 1952, was the description of a person who does calculations. It had nothing to do with electricity. Okay, it was organic. It was a description of an organic thing. a person that did calculations. And if you've seen the movie or read something about it, this is a group of women, happened to be African American, happened to be in the state, I believe, and came together to help NASA have a successful space mission, ultimately to get a man on the moon. That was their purpose. And this woman, Dorothy Vaughan, who died in 2008, was a remarkable woman who was not the supervisor of these women. She was a co-worker, but she was the informal supervisor because she couldn't be a supervisor. So what she did is saw people moving these big pieces of machinery into the building, found out some company called IBM, and figured out something was going on, and learned these machines ran on something called Fortran, and went to the library and taught herself Fortran. I went to Stanford and took Fortran. I was at every coaching session possible to learn Fortran. This woman did it on her own. Not only did it on her own, taught the people that worked for her Fortran. This wasn't in her job description. And when asked why she did it, she said, because I wanted a successful space mission. It wasn't diversity and inclusion. Those words didn't exist. It wasn't affirmative action. That didn't exist. It was the mission of the organization that drove this woman to do this, to make this investment in herself and this investment in others. Now, I want to be Dorothy Vaughan. I'm going to come up short. I'm positive. But I just want to set a bar for all of us that these people do exist. And it was the purpose of the organization that inspired her. And she talked about that until her death. That's all she talked about until her death. So the key here is, you're in organizations, think about what's your distribution. How many level 5 experiences are your people having? How many level 1 experiences are your people having? That's all that matters. That's the reason you're here, is to start to figure that out, and what can you do about it? What can you do? And in every organization, this distribution is present. We know a lot about horrible places to work, too. We just don't publish that list. It's not good for business. But within horrible places to work, you find remarkable leaders doing remarkable things, where people come to work and they love working for that person with the same comp plan, the same benefits, or lack thereof. So people can be remarkable and great for all leaders anywhere, not just at some high-tech software company. How can you improve it, once you know what it is? So we just want to share a few tips. What can you do to become a for-all leader? Yeah, it involves change, but it starts with the numbers, analytics. You got to know what the facts are. We don't know a better way of knowing what the facts are other than asking employees. Asking management what's going on in the company is a way to get imperfect information, biased information. The way to get what's going on, we believe, is asking employees. And doing that in a very skillful way. That happens to be the business we're in. We're not the only people in this business. Then you take those analytics and you get leaders what we call prescriptions. We chose that word on purpose because we think this is serious. We think you need some medicine. And here it is. And you need to take it. You have such a nice smile, I can't make this point. Okay, so some people need to take the medicine 3 times a day. This is the reality of leaders. And we know what the prescription is based on what people are experiencing. So we deliver that. And then our experience has shown, can a leader change on their own? It's like, no. No. I can do it myself. Just give me the analytics. Especially that leader. Leaders need help. How many of them want help? 0. How many of them need help? All of them. And this is where HR professionals come in to provide that help, that guidance, or that coach. They can't make it without that support. If you're an HR leader, this is the role, and it's vital now. Absolutely vital. Or go back to the robots. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. So this vital role, we know, needs to be filled with a partnership with HR. And now's a good time to do it. So we don't feel like, sometimes we work with companies who say, okay, well, we're going to develop our 3-year HR capital plan. And we're like, you're what? Are you serious? Do you not know what's happening in the world? It's like right now. It's like right now. And it's probably a little late because we still have people talking about artificial intelligence, lowering costs, going to increase profits. We still have that going on. So it's a right now thing. We have to raise the leadership bar. This is something that we say, but when you look at it in writing, it looks crazy. He or she is a great leader, but they aren't very good with people. Some of you are laughing because you know you've said it. It's a ridiculous thing to say. Huh? What are they leading? They aren't leading. Okay, we call this, we worked hard to come up with how you describe this leader. We call it the unintentional leader. That's the nicest way we could say it. But there are a lot of people working for unintentional leaders. They're leading with authority. Yeah. And when we survey them, you know what we found out? They don't even want to be leaders. Just some comp plan forced it. It was the only way for the company to get them more money. Let's give them some people, then we can give them a raise. Crazy, but happens all the time. Okay, so we believe it's crazy. It's time to deal with crazy. Now, you know, it's not a for-all leader. Genius? Maybe. Okay, if you read the biography, nobody was saying, oh, I loved working for Steve Jobs. It's like, that's not what people said. Genius? Absolutely. Change the world? Absolutely. But not a for-all leader. Not one that maximized the human potential of others. Outstanding individual performer, which most of these unintentional leaders, that's what they are. Outstanding individual performers, comp plans got them promoted, and here they are with people. And very little training. So not a for-all leader. A for-all leader is willing to change. That's what that level 5 is. They're willing to get information, get data, and change. And they need help doing it. And they believe that you maximize the human potential of everyone. They believe that's how you win. And they have this view of people that they aren't different. They don't see they don't have the fears other people have because they're so focused on the mission of the organization. So they see people more like, you're here, we value you, the organization's purpose needs you to be all that you can be. And I'm willing to change. Not because I like change, nobody does. I'm willing to change because, like Dorothy Vaughan, the organization's purpose is so powerful. I'm willing to change, which is really the only reason leaders will change. Comp plans will get an adjustment in behavior, but it's not sustainable. Leaders change because they are passionately moved by something and it's bigger than them, and then they're willing to make some adjustments in their personality, or the way they behave, or the way they listen to people, or the way they speak to people, or the way they recognize people, or the way they reward people, or the way they welcome people, or the way they give feedback to people, or the way they coach people, or the way they sponsor people. All things that leaders need to do, particularly for all leaders. So this is our mission. We've talked about it. We look in the mirror and we see not necessarily what's happening today, but what we want to be true at some point in the future. We think about girls like this, and in 2030, what are they going to experience? Our hope is that they never hear this. So this is sometimes a response, you know, in the work we do, it's touchy sometimes. And I've walked into a room of executives, and the first thing someone said is this. And I'm not even there to talk about diversity goals. we're not lowering. Actually, I'm here to talk about respect and trust and profitability, but thanks for sharing. Or the people in this photo, that the women on the right, if they're doing the same job as the young men on the left, they should make the same pay by 2020. The differential makes no sense. Or these people. I hope that they never hear this ridiculous thing. The need for a business case for why you should treat people with respect. Or these two people. I hope that the young man in the chair goes to work and finds people there like him. And the father goes to work instead of being what is now the invisible 9%, which are people who go to work every day, 9% of all working people with a disabled person in their family. And when they said, I had to get my son ready for school, it was a whole different thing than when most people say it. It ain't about Cheerios in a bowl. It's about a feeding tube, being clean or not. And these people don't talk about their families at work because they feel like it's going to hurt their chance for promotion if people know this is who they are. So they're kind of like Alex Turing, unable to be themselves at work. We hope that this changes. And this is a way that you make it change. We hope that diversity and inclusion, nobody's talking about it in 2030. It's like we're done with that. It's happened. Now, it's a crazy vision, but change starts with a crazy vision. Absolutely starts with it. And this thing about people being different is great, but this thing about people being different is filled with lots of things that just are not true, including fear. And in that way, it's not great. On Celebrating the Difference Day, some people are nervous. Not everybody's loving it due to this thing called fear. I thought this shot was just a great way to end. It's hope. She has no fear. She's looking forward to things. And we have an opportunity to make things different for this beautiful young woman. Thank you for listening. Any questions? Yes.
When you were, and I apologize because I can't remember how you named the diagram that you had up there, the 5 different leader types.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that it is hard to move between two, but not always between some of them. Can you explain why that is?
Yeah, I think the level 5 leader is a pretty special person. They have a worldview that is free of politicking and power. They just approach life that way. That's pretty tough to teach. Seems to be tough to teach. So I think it's one of those things. It's like I can go and practice all the 3-point shots I want. I'm not going to shoot like Steph Curry. There are just some things that some people can do, some people can't do. So I think that's the thing between the 4 and the 5. The 1 and the 2, this leader often doesn't want to be a leader. So they get pushed to be a leader. That's not what they want to do. They want to lead projects, teams, solve complex problems, and things like that. And organizations need them very badly. So to try and get them to move up the leadership curve, it's not something they want to do. They usually get forced to it. So that's why it's sticky from 1 to 2. But look at where most leaders are, 2, 3, and 4. All 2 to a 3, yes. And that's a huge improvement. We actually have the improvements not only in revenue, but in retention, cost to hire, attrition, all those statistics, depending on your distribution. So moving leaders from a 2 to a 3 has a huge impact on your employees. Moving leaders from a 3 to a 4, huge impact. So just doing work in those middle 3 areas, huge lift for your business. And what CEOs do who work with us and get this data is say, look, we're going to explore this unintentional leader thing because we have in fact done that. But for everybody else, we want you moving to the right. Everybody here, because often the CEO who thinks they're a 5, yeah, that's always an interesting day. They have to look at it, and the great CEOs are like, look, I'm a 3. I'm creating a level 3 experience for all of you, and they're like, yeah, you are. Okay. I want to move to the right. as well. We're all going to work together, and then it takes off. Uh-huh.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
I'm 99% with you on the concept of what makes a good leader. Oh, thanks. I'm 99% of the way with you when what makes a good leader. And I strive to be everything that you describe as a level 5 with my team. Where I struggle is when I saw Steve Jobs. By all means, he is not what we define as a level 5 leader. However, there's certain circumstances, and this is what I'm asking for your feedback on. I think there's certain circumstances where you have an exceptional mind that is driving absolute change. And that's what Steve Jobs was. He was driving this incredible change, and people did not like the change. And in order for him to make this change happen, he had to be a complete asshole in certain circumstances. He had, excuse my language, he had to just be if you watch the way he engaged with his team, it was to drive absolute mind-blowing change. And so I question if Tim Cook is capable of doing that with his being as well liked as he is and being a people person as he is. And I wonder if that's change that a level 5 leader could make in the same way that Steve Jobs did. Sorry, I don't know what my question is. I just want to comment on that.
I know what your question is, and you've got a great radio voice too. But I know what your question is. And actually, you can go to quartz.com. I'm sorry, Quora. There's a ton on this of people who work for Steve Jobs. Yeah. There's a ton, they will explain what it was like. And they will say it was the worst experience of my life and the best experience of my life. They describe it. A lot of wreckage in families there. But they did amazing things. So, and then the whole thing is, okay, do I have to be the word you used, I'm not going to use it from the stage because it's being recorded. And an unintentional kind of, bad leader. There's a lot of examples of people. Tim Cook. Look at the stock performance of Apple since Tim Cook looked over, based on it.
Right.
Huh?
It's gone down, right?
Oh, no. Even with the trade war. Take a look. Yeah, absolutely not. Okay, it's the most valuable company in the world and the most profitable company in the world. So that's that. Different leader. Gay, out of the closet, known for how he treats people. People love working for the guy. Take a look at the company. Take a look at the profitability and all those kinds of things. You know, there's an indication. So do you have to be genius? For sure. But do you want to work for him? I don't think so. Do you want your kid to work for him? I don't think so. Maybe like go get some experience and then go work someplace else. So there are very few Steve Jobses. There are very few Elon Musks. And apparently now that's a person who has disrupted 3 industries and seems to be a pretty good person to work for. Now he presses with a lot of I'm not saying it's heaven, because there's a lot of data on him as well, and we don't survey them, so I can't, I don't know. But it depends on what you want to believe. I think it's too easy to say he's a jerk, but he had to be to push innovation. There's enough examples of innovative people. I can name some. Anil Bousri, CEO of Workday, was the prior CEO of PeopleSoft. Great person to work for. His people love working for him. Has disrupted technology. First cloud-based company, being Workday. Innovative ahead of Salesforce. So there's an example that I have. I live in Silicon Valley, a place where it's a badge of honor to be a horrible leader and innovate. It's like that's what you want to be. I don't think that's the future. I don't think we think it's the future. We hope that that's not the future. What if you can unlock people? There's a reason those organizations have the demographics that they have, that are not inclusive, and are being pushed by a certain mindset that is beginning to backfire in some of those companies. We're reading about it every day. Go ahead and go for it. I'll try and repeat.
Speak loudly.
I just wanted to follow up on that. I've got a big voice, so you can hear me.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs had a lot of success, and I think we're blinded a little bit by the transformational nature of that success. But what if he weren't a jerk? what would that success look like? I think knowing the science, the emotional EQ science that we have now, in
Yeah.
terms of how people perform in a better environment, because I think everybody in this room, we work for jerks, we work for people that we will follow over a cliff, right? I'd much rather work for the second. My work's better, the company works better. Where in the hell would that company be if he weren't a jerk?
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Well, it almost went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And let's not forget he wrecked 4 companies. Read the book. Everybody forgets the other things that he did and why they brought in the guy from PepsiCo in the first place. That's why they brought him in. You know, so, but, you know, changed the world. Absolutely changed the world. So, you know, you probably want to take a person like that and build a company around him, a little startup somewhere. But keep him away from people as much as possible. Thanks for your time and your attention today. Okay.